Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report. Coming up on today's show, I have my top offensive coordinator candidates for the Las Vegas Raiders that they could potentially hire in 2024 if they decide to keep Antonio Pierce as the head coach. Like, let's face it here. I know that this Raiders offense can play a lot better, and they are definitely trending in the right direction. I could not be happier that this team finally decided to move on from Josh McDaniels, that they decided to move on from Mick Lombardi, and I understand that Bo Hardegree right now is in a little bit of a difficult situation because he's not ready to be an OC. But you know what? We're going to roll with the punches this year, and I can't wait to see what the Raiders decide to do next season. My answer to this is simple. No, I do not want Bo Hardegree to be the Raiders offensive coordinator in 2024. And the reason why I made this video is because if I had to guess, right now based off the votes that are going to come in for this question, I'm going to say 90 to 95% of the people that watch this video go ahead and say, no, I don't want Bo Hardegree. However, I've been asked, Mitch, well, if you don't want Bo Hardegree, give us some candidates out there that this team could hire, which is exactly what I'm going to do. And the reason why that I don't want Bo is because I need excitement. The Raiders need excitement. Raider Nation needs an exciting offense that when you watch it, it's like watching your favorite movie. It's like going through, I don't know, wedding pictures. You just stop, look, and enjoy. Because right now what I'm looking at is a boring vanilla offense, and we have had a boring vanilla offense for as long as I feel like I've been doing this show. It is time to get it spiced up a little bit. In today's day and age, if you can't run a fun and exciting offense, I'm sorry. You're just wasting everybody's time. So it's time to hire somebody that can actually put the players and the pieces together to get this offense clicking. Now, I know this, man. When the Raiders decide to hire a new offensive coordinator, I will be going live here on the show. I'm not going to be live for 26 hours, but maybe 6 hours. Shout out to Avery and all the loyal Raiders Report watchers here. I don't want you to miss it. We're going to be partying. We're going to be having a good time. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you got those notifications turned on because when the Raiders hire an OC, I don't want you to miss it. All right, now I don't have these guys ranked in any particular order. I just decided to throw together some names, and I have 9 coaches that I want you guys to keep an eye on here. First name is Jerrod Johnson, okay? Jerrod Johnson. And when I say some of these names, your homework assignment after looking at some of these guys is go watch how they're coaching. Go watch how some of their players maybe talk about them. Search up their name on Instagram, Twitter. Get more information because Johnson is a young coach who is getting tons of hype. And I have said multiple times on the show that I would like to be able to go a little bit of a younger regime because I think that they're more able and they have the ability to communicate with a lot of the players on the roster. He was a longtime NFL backup quarterback, so sure, he did not have a lot of success in terms of actually playing football. However, if you're going to keep a guy like Antonio Pierce, who was a player coach, I do think bringing in an OC that's also a potential player coach speaks volumes. And then on top of that, if you don't know what you're going to do at the quarterback position, even if you know that you're going to keep Aidan O'Connell, you need to figure out that QB spot. And he was the Vikings assistant quarterbacks coach last season when Kirk Cousins had one of the best seasons that he's ever had, and the Vikings were winning a bunch of games. And what he's doing this season is absolutely spectacular for C.J. Stroud. Don't get me wrong. C.J. Stroud is no doubt the Rookie of the Year. And Stroud is doing everything to show you that he doesn't only deserve to be in that Rookie of the Year conversation, he should honestly be in that MVP conversation. D'Amico Ryans deserves a lot of credit. Pep Hamilton deserves a lot of credit. But I also think Jerrod Johnson deserves a lot of credit because, well, he is the quarterback's coach after all. Let's go to the next name here, and I'm going to hopefully get this one right. Kevin Patullo, Eagles pass game coordinator. And a lot of the times what coaching staffs do, regimes do, is they say, okay, well, this offense is having some success. Well, who are they learning underneath? Oh, all right, that's pretty cool. Let's go with that guy. And you're going to see a lot of names like that on today's show. And with Patullo here, he's done a good job with Jalen Hurts, and Hurts has been on this team for, quite some time now. He was drafted, second round 3 years ago at this point, 2021. So Patullo, though, I think you've seen how much better Hurts has gotten, not only as an athlete, a decision maker, but most importantly, as a quarterback. He started coaching in 2003 at South Florida, where he also played college football. So another player here, again, has some playing experience, has a lot of coaching experience from college. but he specializes in quarterbacks and wide receivers. That's where he's had a lot of his other jobs, if you will. And if I'm the Raiders here, I'm looking at how much talent I have in my wide receiver room in Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers, and I'm saying, okay, I got Trey Tucker for next season. How do I get the most out of my wide receivers? How do I get the most out of my quarterback room? I do think that Patullo is definitely somebody to look at. Let's go to another name here, which this one might be controversial, but in the NFL, sometimes you need a scapegoat. And I believe that Ken Dorsey was a scapegoat for the Buffalo Bills and their struggling offense, because I've talked to a lot of people. One of my really good buddies works for the Bills. I went to high school with him. And he's like, a lot of the players, a lot of coaches were heartbroken when they found out that Dorsey was fired. And he got fired last week, and some of you are like, well, if he got fired and he wasn't good enough to be with the Bills, why do you want to bring him in? Because to me, sometimes, unfortunately, when certain people can't get fired, maybe like your head coach, or maybe Josh Allen just was playing bad football, because Josh Allen at times plays really bad and for whatever reason doesn't seem to get blamed for his poor play. So now they blame Ken Dorsey. They shifted him on out of here. I think he's one of the better offensive-minded coaches in the league, and because of that, I would be more than willing to bring in Ken Dorsey to be our offensive coordinator. I think he'd do a phenomenal job. Would I want to give him a quarterback of his choosing? Yeah. However, though, I do think that he could do a halfway decent job with a guy like Aidan O'Connell. I still got 6 more coaches and candidates to get into here on today's show, so please don't go anywhere. For those of you that are watching this live, for those of you that are watching this on a later date, hey, it's all good, but I do got to show some love to today's sponsor, Prize Picks. And anybody out there that's like, hey, I like fantasy football. You like fantasy football? I'm talking to you, Jordan. I'm talking to you, John. Jonathan Morrow. I'm talking to all of you. If you like playing fantasy football, go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and make sure that you use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. So Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. And for me, on Monday, what am I going to do when I go home tonight? Obviously, I'm going to watch Chiefs and Eagles, but also I'm going to throw some money around. I'm going to be locked and loaded into that game, and hopefully I have 10, 20 bucks down, have a good time, a little bit of entertainment, sit there with my fiance Alex, and have a chance to make $100 tonight. I took the more on Isaiah Pacheco on the overall rushing yards. Give me the more on Sky Moore for 16.5 receiving yards. I mean, life's too short, right? And then Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce combined touchdown. There is nothing that would make me more happy as if I hit this and Travis Kelce wasn't the one that scored the touchdown. But that's what Prize Picks is. That's what fantasy is all about. It's easy and exciting daily fantasy, and I want you guys to go try it out. So, Nation, go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That link's going to be available to you guys down in the comments and down in the description of today's show. All right, we're going to keep it moving here on the Raiders Report. Remember, we're looking for Bo Hardegree replacements in 2024. I have my top 9 offensive coaching candidates that I believe could be a good OC. So far we have Jerrod Johnson, Kevin Patullo, Ken Dorsey. Now we're going to go with the Detroit Lions, their pass game coordinator, and Tanner Engstrand. Hopefully I pronounced that name correctly. But overall, like I mentioned with Kevin Patullo, and like I've mentioned with, Jerrod Johnson, sometimes I'm going to pick coaches based off the tree that they have been under. And right now he's in the 4th season with the Detroit Lions. He was the Lions tight end coach in 2022, and Detroit's tight end room combined for 12 touchdowns. That was most in Lions history. He also was able to have 3 tight ends have multi-touchdown games. It was the first time in NFL history throughout the season. He worked with Jim Harbaugh at San Diego, and he worked with him at Michigan. So he's got some good coaching ties on top of that. Plus, though, I want to be able to find a coach. I want to be able to find an offensive coordinator that can match Antonio Pierce's, I want to run through a wall. I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for. His moxie, I need to find somebody that's like Antonio Pierce. And right now, Dan Campbell, the Lions head coach, has spoke volumes about how Tanner brings that mojo. He brings that energy. And I need that energy on the offensive side of the football because I think it's going to mesh really well with Antonio Pierce. Now, we're going to be getting into some college coaches coming up here in just a second, but I do think that this is an important question. Like, you don't have to just pick from the NFL. You can look at the college ranks, and I'm going to be giving you guys some college coaches that I would potentially look at to be the next OC. So should the Raiders stick with the NFL, type NFL, or should they go to college? I want you to type CFB. Really curious to see what you guys have cooked up here. Let's go to the next name here on my list, and it's Mike Denbrock, the LSU offensive coordinator. Some people might say, Mitch, I don't know if that is an upgrade going from OC to LSU to OC for the Raiders, but let me make this clear. This guy and the next person I'm about to mention, the only way that I believe that you make this hire is if you draft the quarterback that they're working with right now. So if the Raiders are like, man, I love Jayden Daniels, he's my guy, this is going to be the quarterback that we target because we're not going to have an opportunity to get a Drake May, a Caleb Williams, because we're not going to trade up to get them, but we're going to target Jayden. I do think going out and finding somebody like Denbrock is kind of interesting. He was the Cincinnati OC from 2018 to 2021. That program did a lot of really, really good things that season, or honestly, all those seasons. Cincinnati now is a halfway decent program. And then you got, coaching college football since 1986. He's an older guy. He's 59 years old. But I do think having that relativeness, if you plan on going out and getting a guy like Jayden Daniels, hiring a guy like Mike Denbrock here does make some sense. Let's go to another name here, and this is a name that I would love for the Raiders to be able to get. Ryan Grubb, the Washington offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. Grubb's offense here for Washington has been spectacular. I mean, it's arguably the best offense in all of college football. You got 3 great receivers. You have Michael Penix Jr., and kind of like what I said about Jayden Daniels, if the Raiders want to draft Penix Jr. because they don't think that they can get Drake May, they don't think that they can get Caleb, I do think that Grubb should be somebody that's targeted. On top of that, I know how much you guys love Fresno State, so I went back, I looked at a lot of the numbers, and his offenses when he was at Fresno State were very spectacular. I'm a big believer if you have a lot of success at a bunch of different levels, chances are you're probably a pretty damn good coach. So you bring in Grubb to be your OC to spark this offense a little bit, because every single offense that this guy has touched, it's been pretty damn successful. Let's go to the next name here. I got Deuce Staley, the Panthers assistant head coach and running backs coach. And Deuce Staley is a dude that I have the utmost respect for, and I think him and Antonio Pierce would be a very nice combination, because to me, I look at Antonio Pierce and what he brings to that defensive side of the football. I think that's what exactly Deuce Staley is going to bring to the offensive side of the football. He has worked under Andy Reid, Chip Kelly, Doug Peterson, and Staley became a vocal leader on Dan Campbell's staff last year as the Lions' assistant head coach. Sometimes you need guys that are leaders, and from an X's and O standpoint, I have no idea how successful Staley is going to be. I'll be real with you. I do not know. But I do think that you have to be able to form a great coaching staff, and a coaching staff that is very alike. You have Antonio Pierce. Players would run through a wall from him. When you hear a lot of players talk about Deuce Staley, they would run through a wall for Deuce Staley. And now you got the Raiders defense playing it the way that it's been playing underneath Patrick Graham. I'm telling you what, I like that combination of coaches all together, which is why Deuce Staley makes my list. I got a few more candidates coming up here, but for those that do not know, today is my dad's birthday, and I have absolutely positively no idea if he's going to be watching the show, but all I want you guys to do is spam HBD down below, and he's got a message for you. He's a little bit hungover. Yesterday during our Raiders watch party against the Dolphins, every time somebody sent in a $50 super chat, I said he'd take a shot. Well, he was hurting yesterday. He sent me a picture. He had like the fireball in his hand. Bottom line is this. I know you guys have my back, but the fact that you guys were willing to wish my dad a happy birthday, I had multiple people reach out to him. That's one of the biggest thank yous I could ever do. This is a big-time family to me. I love what we've been able to create on here, and the fact that people were showing love to my dad a few weeks ago in Las Vegas, and then today for his birthday. It's an absolutely beautiful thing. So, Dad, happy birthday. I love you. All right, we're going to keep it moving here. Let's go to Jake Peets, the Rams pass game specialist. And I'm curious to see how many Raider fans remember Peets here, because believe it or not, he did work with the Raiders back in 2017 to 2019, which was one of the years that Derek Carr made the Pro Bowl, right? We remember that. However, I will admit, you go back and you actually look at a lot of those years, and that was not the best of Derek Carr. Was it because of the injury? I like to believe so. But to me, again, I like to look at coaching trees. I like to look at people who I think have worked with the right coaches, because let's face it, that's who you're going to learn underneath, right? He's worked underneath Nick Saban, which I like coaches that learn underneath Nick Saban, because I like the structure that Saban really tries to run and what he does at Alabama. That doesn't mean that I want an old school mentality coach like a Saban. No, but I think when you combine that with somebody like Sean McVay, head coach of the Los Angeles Rams, and you can see a lot of the innovative stuff that Los Angeles has done, a lot of the innovative stuff that McVay's done, and honestly, a lot of the coaches that have been underneath McVay when they have gone on to other places have had some success. So when you combine all that, I think Pete's could be an interesting spot there for an offensive coordinator. And then the last name here, in full transparency, if you told me right now, based off of me having Antonio Pierce as my head coach, and then having Patrick Graham as my defensive coordinator, the number one person that I would want, Joe Blameyer, okay? And I get it. Some of y'all are going to look at him and like, oh, he's a Chiefs guy. Cool, we get an inside scoop on what they're doing over there. But he's the pass game coordinator, and he's been with Kansas City since 2016, and he's been working his way up that coaching tree for quite some time. Andy Reid has praised him for the work that he's been able to do with some of the innovative schemes that he comes up with, his creative concepts. Reid really hypes up this guy. And then back, I want to say in like 2020 or 2021, there was a big-time play. It was one of the biggest plays that the Chiefs had in their playoff run that, he created apparently, right? Like, I want somebody where Andy Reid says, you know what, I trust you. And Patrick Mahomes goes, you know what, I trust you. And the fact that they have the ability to be like, hey, let's get a little bit fun, let's get a little bit crazy, because to me, if you give this guy an athletic quarterback, and there's a lot of athletic quarterbacks in this year's draft, I'm saying I wouldn't want him if you kept Aidan O'Connell. But if you're saying, hey, man, let's go out, let's get an athletic QB, maybe somebody like Penix Jr., a Caleb Williams, a Jaden Daniels, somebody that just has more of that athletic overall ability, Joe Blameyer, man, definitely a name to keep in mind. So those are my top coordinators, right? And that list is going to change. There's going to be new names that probably pop up. There might be some names on that list that after the end of the season I go, well, they didn't finish the season the way that I was hoping. And that is the way that it is. But at the time that I am making this video right now, those are coordinators that I would want the Raiders to keep an eye on. So my question of the nation is if you made it this far in the video, first off, shout out to all of y'all. But who do you want the Raiders offensive coordinator to be next season? I'm going to be looking to see some of the answers, and I'm going to be giving some shout outs coming up here live on the Raiders Report. One more time here, let's go through the Raiders 2024 OC candidates that I would want them to hire over Bo Hardegree. Jerrod Johnson, very interesting name there, has done phenomenal work with C.J. Stroud. Kevin Patullo, Ken Dorsey, Tanner Engstrand with the Lions pass game coordinator. Then you got Mike Denbrock, some college coaches, Ryan Grubb, Deuce Staley, Jake Peets, and then Joe Blameyer. I think that's how you pronounce it. The Chiefs pass game coordinator. To me, all of these guys are better options than Bo. Well, the Raiders are going to roll with the punches for the rest of the season. They have to. And when you fire your coach, when you fire your offensive coordinator, you will have to roll with the punches. But you do also have to start preparing for next season. Go to organizations, they start preparing right away. Now, if you guys want to give me a follow on Instagram or on Twitter, you already know. I'm at Mitchell Renz 365. I do my best to check my DMs. Obviously, it gets a little bit crazy during the season. But when I do get my free time, usually sitting down, get some marks on my thighs. You guys know what I'm talking about. I do my best to respond. Appreciate all of y'all. Bottom line, hopefully the Raiders get a brand new OC next season that can finally get us a top 10 offense to pair potentially with the top 10 defense.